Hello and welcome back to another episode of Bitesize Cinema. I'm your host RJ McCready, and for this episode I'm going to be taking you guys back to the year in 1982 to take a look at one of Hollywood's most iconic sportsmen. It's Rocky Balboa. And that's right guys, I've picked one of the movies which is iconic. It's in the 80s. It's got Mr. T, it's got Hulk Hogan, it's got Carl Weathers, it's got everything. It's got the Eye of the Tiger, man. That's right, it's Rocky 3. So, let's jump into the ring, let's take a look at the trailer, and I will see you guys soon.
Now, when we fought, you had that eye of the tiger, man, the edge. And now you got to get it back. And the way to get it back is to go back to the beginning. You know what I mean?
United Artists and Chartoff Winkler proudly present Rocky 3.
The worst thing happened to you that could happen to any fighter. You got civilized.
Get out of here with you! The truth is, we both started out on the same corner, and I got lucky with my life, and it's driving you nuts.
Philadelphia salutes its favorite son, Rocky Balboa.
Hey, why don't you tell all these nice folks why you've been ducking me?
This guy is a wrecking machine.
You know, you got a big mouth.
Why don't you come out and close it, Balboa? Come on.
I want to fight this guy.
You'll fight him without me.
Balboa.
I'm gonna torture him. I'm gonna crucify him real bad.
For the first time in my life, I'm afraid.
Damn, Ron, come on!
There's nothing wrong with being afraid.
You thought I was tough? This jump will kill you.
You wake up after a few years thinking you're a winner, but you're not.
There is no tomorrow.
You're really a loser.
Well, I don't believe it.
There is no tomorrow.
It's Rocky's greatest challenge to save his honor, his marriage, and his manhood against his most devastating and dangerous opponent.
I'll bust you out.
Go for it.
An American tradition.
And welcome back guys. So the synopsis for this film is, after winning the ultimate title and being the world champion, Rocky falls into a hole and finds himself picked up by a former enemy. It's a PG with a 99-minute runtime and it's classed as a drama sports movie. It was written and directed by Sylvester Stallones and had a $17 million budget, and it did really well back in 1982. It took something like $140 million worldwide, so it was a proper blockbuster back in the 80s. And the film's main theme, Eye of the Tiger, which is iconic, when you hear this song you just think of Rocky, was written by Survivor, and that was a massive smash hit at the time. And it also got nominated for an Academy Award, which quite rightly so, because when you think of this song you think of Rocky, and Survivor also went on to go and do the song for Rocky 4, which is Burning Heart, which again is another iconic song for the franchise, and also another great movie which is a fan favourite, which I'll go on to in a minute. And again, Rocky just kept on getting stronger. I think Rocky 4 took even more money at the box office, and I think it had a slightly bigger budget. But whilst we're talking about that, the reason why I'm doing Rocky 3 is because it's my personal favourite. And I think it's got a lot to do with the fact that it was the first Rocky movie that I'd seen. I was aware of Rocky, but I never actually saw 1 or 2. I saw this late at night, along with all the other films that I was watching back in the sort of early 90s. And I think what it was is it seemed iconic to me because it had Mr. T as a bad guy in it, and I was immediately hooked to this point. So I thought, hey, it's B.A. Baracus in a movie fighting Rocky, and I thought, how cool is that? And then you got Hulk Hogan in this film making an appearance, and at that time he was big in the WWF. And then you got the Eye of the Tiger theme song, which I just mentioned, and Carl Weathers is in this film, and he was in Predator at the time. So all these characters that I could relate to, I thought, oh wow, you know, this is really cool. It's a real amalgamation of all these kind of heroes in this one movie. And then obviously you've got the Rocky story. And I just really liked it. I just thought this is really cool. And it's also a story about redemption as well. And it kind of gave you a little bit of a backstory about Rocky and how he came to being Rocky Balboa and all his success. So I can sort of compare it to the Mad Max 2 film. That's kind of how I see this one. So if someone said to me, RJ, I've never seen a Rocky film, I'd say go and watch number 3, because it kind of gives you that sort of backstory, and then it helps you catch up very quickly with the character. And that's kind of what I meant with Mad Max 2. I'm not saying that this is like Mad Max 2. I'm just saying that when you watch Mad Max 2, if you haven't seen any of the others, I kind of see that as kind of like a standalone film. This could almost be like a standalone film, I guess you could say. But that's not taking anything from the other ones, because I think generally on the whole in the Rocky franchise, I think that there is a film for everybody. I think all the films, probably from 1 to 4, I didn't really get number 5 or the ones going on from that, but I think from 1 to 4 there's a film for everybody. So you've got the very iconic first one, which is set in the 70s, and then you've got 3 and 4, which is set in the 80s. And if you're an 80s fan like me, and you've got Clubber Lang and Dolph Lundgren as the bad guys and all that, it's just it's a real treat, and it's a nice touch of 80s nostalgia as well. So there you go. That's the reason why I like Rocky 3 the most. But let's have a look at the cast. So the co-stars in this movie is Talia Shire as Adrian. I'm not even going to do it. It's too obvious, guys. Burt Young as Paulie, Carl Weathers as Apollo Creed, and Burgess Meredith. He's iconic. I think he was doing Clash of the Titans around about this time as well, as Mickey Goldmill, and Tony Burton as Duke. And then obviously you've got Mr. T as Clubber Lang, and Hulk Hogan as Thunderlips. So that's to name the cast, just some of the few there. So it's got a pretty solid cast in this movie. And I usually like to talk about the production of these films and how they got there, but this one didn't take much to get there, obviously, because it was a third instalment. The first 2 had done really well. So it was supported by MGM Studios, which gave it a $17 million budget, and of course it did really well. So most of the preparation for this film, ironically, is actually Stallone getting in shape for the film. And he reckons that he got down to about 2.8% body fat, and he weighed about 155 pounds. And it's probably about the best shape that Stallone was in, and I think he was doing the Rambo films and all that at this time, and he's probably competing with Schwarzenegger and all that sort of stuff. So so a lot of the preparation really was for Stallone getting in shape for this movie, but then he was, like I say, he was probably already in shape anyway. So the film didn't take that much to get rolling. And whilst we're talking about stuff like 2.8% body fat and all that sort of stuff, that's kind of sounded a little bit like trivia to me. So let's talk about the film trivia. And there's some good stuff on this. So I'll start off with a bit of funny trivia here. So at the movie's premiere, Mr. T took his mum, and when the scene comes on with Clubber Lang throwing some lurid remarks towards Adrian, Mr. T's mum in real life walked out of the cinema and said to him, "I did not bring you up like that." So I think I'll pay money to see that. It's pretty cool. This is Carl Weathers' favourite Rocky movie, and he said it's because this film humanised his character. And I'd say that's pretty accurate, actually, because I think Carl Weathers almost steals the show here. He puts on a great performance, and he's a real leader. You know, he's a real sort of character, and he helps Rocky along the way, which is great. It's a great spin on from the first 2 movies where they're competing against each other. So I think that's what really helps this movie along the way, and obviously a great building block for the next movie, number 4. It makes you root for that character even more. So yeah, absolutely. Sylvester Stallone actually based his character, Rocky Balboa, on his real life experiences of being the over-top celebrity and some real life experiences there. So he adopted that into the character too. Some of his own personal experiences there. This is the first time that Mr. T comes out with the phrase, "I pity the fool." A lot of us all think that's what he used in the A-Team. I'm not sure if he did or not, but apparently this is the first time that he used the phrase. And Hulk Hogan, now I do not have the best knowledge here of WWF trivia, but apparently he got fired after appearing in this film from the WWF for some reason. I don't know why, but a couple of years later, when the film was successful and people saw him in this movie, he got hired back into the WWF, and he became a big character, became an iconic character, and he teamed up with Mr. T for the first WrestleMania, and they also cameoed in the A-Team, or he did a cameo in the A-Team with Mr. T as well. So Rocky 3 kind of did Hulk Hogan some harm, but then it kind of did him a favour because it kind of put him into the sort of frame really with WWF and helped him along the way. So there you go. It's funny how things roll sometimes. So there you go, guys. There's production of the car, some trivia. There's how Rocky 3 became Rocky 3 and how it got there, and it's got its iconic status now. And there's one person that I've forgotten to mention here is the film composer Tom Conti. He composed all the music for the first two movies. He's done the iconic Rocky theme song. He also did the music to The Karate Kid. I never knew that. Looking at his IMDb, he also did the music for The Spy Who Loved Me for James Bond. And then going back to The Karate Kid, I'm kind of moving in and out here, with The Survivor, The Eye of the Tiger. Now, Rocky 3 was originally going to have the best song at the end of The Karate Kid. I never knew that. I've never heard anybody talk about that. And I think that's a great bit of trivia. Could you imagine that in Rocky? You're the best around. I guess I could see that going with it. But Survivor got the top bill, and hell, Survivor could have done the music for The Karate Kid. You could have had the Eye of the Tiger song at the end of that iconic scene in The Karate Kid. So there you go. It's funny how things roll. That's the 80s for you guys. That's how mysterious and wonderful things are in the 80s, and why we all love it with trivia like that. So in another alternate universe, you never know. So there you go. So let's do a bite-sized review on Rocky 3. So the film starts off with that iconic theme by Bill Conti, the Rocky Balboa theme tune, and it's set in 1980, and then you get two gloves punching each other on the screen, and then it shows you over the years of Rocky Balboa winning several fights, and he's in the limelight. He's gone to Hollywood and he's become an exhibition. He's kind of doing charity work, and he's in magazines, he's selling products. Hell, he's even on the Muppet Show. And whilst Rocky is enjoying this celebrity lifestyle, there's another contender out there. It's Clubber Lang. He's slowly rising through the ranks. He's hungry for it, and he's trained himself to be a strong contender against Rocky Balboa. And then whilst Rocky is unveiling a statue of himself outside the Philadelphia Museum, Clubber Lang approaches him and challenges Rocky to a fight, and he says to Rocky that he's been accepting challenges from the lesser opponents, and he said, come on fight a real man. And this goes Rocky on, and he accepts the fight, but this is much to Mickey's disappointment. He doesn't want him to go and fight him. And this is where Mickey tells Rocky that he's been accepting these lesser known fighters for a reason. He says that he doesn't want you to go through what happened with Apollo Creed, because these guys are going to kill you. He said they're younger, they're more powerful, and if you go back now you're going to get beat. He said you're just better off living your life as a celebrity, promoting boxing, making some money. But after this conversation with Mickey, Rocky begins to realise that he hasn't really been properly defending his title, and he accepts the match from Clubber Lang and convinces Mickey to work with him one more time to train him up for the fight. But then Mickey says to him that if we're going to train you, we're just going to need to hit the gym like we did before. But then Rocky decides to go down the celebrity route for this training session. He goes to Las Vegas and he goes to all these attractive gyms, and he's clearly not taking this fight seriously. He's a little bit sure of himself, and Mickey says, you're not hungry for it. You're not hungry for it. You need to get that hunger for it, you know. So it kind of builds up to the point of this film. And the thing that I've forgot to mention is quite an important bit. Is Hulk Hogan. So at the beginning of the film, with all the celebrity stuff, and again, it frustrates Mickey. He takes on this fight, or it's like a sort of charity fight with Thunderlips, which is Hulk Hogan, and he gets smashed up, and then Mickey's saying, you know, he's going to destroy you. So all this stuff is supporting what Mickey is saying to Rocky, is saying that you are just not taking it seriously anymore. You know, you're not like you was 3 years ago when you took on Apollo Creed. So then Rocky and Lang both meet at Philadelphia's Spectrum, and they have a brawl backstage, and Mickey gets shoved out of the way, and it causes him to suffer a heart attack. And Rocky says, I'm going to have to call off the match, but Mickey says, no, I want you to carry on, go and beat this guy. The match begins against Lang, and Rocky initially gives him a good pounding, but then with his conditioning and everything and his lack of preparation, Lang overpowers Rocky and beats him at the fight, and takes him out with a solid left hook in the second round. After the match, poor old Mickey is on his deathbed, and Rocky goes to visit him, and he tells him that it was a knockout in the second round, but he doesn't tell him who won the fight, and Mickey dies thinking that Rocky won. And then this puts Rocky into like a severe bout of depression, and he mourns Mick's death. Rocky goes to visit Mick's old gym, and this is where he meets Apollo Creed, and this is where Apollo says, you know, I watched that fight with Clubber Lang and I analysed it, and he said that I can train you for a rematch, and I can teach you more skills on your feet and get some dynamics. And he said, we're going to go back to some basic training. And all Creed says, look, in exchange for me to train you for the fight, just a future favour. And he doesn't mention what this favour is. He just says, oh, just do me a favour once I train you up. And at first, Rocky can't get his momentum. He's too distracted by the death of Mickey and by the fight that he lost by Clubber Lang. And this is where you get that iconic quote from Apollo Creed. He says, you've got to get that eye of the tiger, man. You've got to be hungry for it. Eye of the tiger. Come on, you can do it. And after months of training, and with the support of Rocky's wife, Adrian, Rocky slowly starts to develop his momentum. He gets back into it. He starts getting hungry for it. There's a great scene where him and Apollo are running on the beach. And you know when he's got his momentum, because then he beats Apollo at a race on a beach. It's a really good scene. You know, they're almost like becoming brothers, and it's really good where they were competing against each other in the first two movies. Now Apollo's helping Rocky, and it's really good. I really like that part of the movie. And then after months of training, there's the rematch that takes place at Madison Square Gardens, and then this is where Apollo lends Rocky his American flag trunks for the fight, which is kind of like a honourable gesture, I suppose you could say. So Rocky dominates the first round with Lang, and then in the third and fourth round he takes a knocking twice from Lang, and he gets knocked down to the floor, making it look like he has knocked him out, but then Rocky gets back up again, and this happens twice. And he's toying with Lang to make it look like, well, you can't really knock me out, I'm just going to get back up again. It's kind of like a mind over matter thing that he's playing with him. So with Lang all rattled and vulnerable and that, and Rocky outboxes him with a number of punches and eventually comes into a brutal knockout to reclaim the heavyweight championship. So after months of training and the help of Apollo Creed, Rocky retains his title. But before the film ends, there's that favour that Apollo Creed asks Rocky. And throughout the whole film you're guessing what this is, and I always say a film is only sometimes as good as its ending, and this is great. For any fans of the first two movies, you've got these two iconic characters on screen, and they're having a rematch with closed doors, and he says, come on Rocky, let's do it, let's have a rematch. And then it ends with them fighting, and then it just like then both punching each other with the gloves like it did at the beginning of the film, and then it closes with that great song, The Eye of the Tiger, and that's it. And ultimately Rocky and Apollo kind of become brothers, you know, they become best mates, which follows on for number 4, which makes that film even better with this film as that kind of building block for that movie. So there you go guys, that is Rocky 3. I hope you enjoyed it. Go check it out. If you haven't seen it, I'd certainly recommend it. I'd even say you could watch this one first if you haven't seen any other Rocky movies. So there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed the show. So I'll be back soon, guys. I'll tell you what I'm going to be doing for the next episode. I'm going to be doing Red Sonja from the mid-80s. I think it might have been about 1985 that it came out, of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Bridget Nielsen. So it's a fun fantasy sword and sorcery type movie. So I'm looking forward to doing that one. So look out for that. That'll be dropping soon. And as always, guys, a little bit of admin for the show. I'm a proud member of the Legion Podcast Network. So go and check out all the other shows on there. I'll play a promo at the end of this. And you can also find the Bitesize Cinema on iTunes and YouTube and several other players on the internet. So go check the show out. So there you go, guys. Keep it bite-sized, keep it safe, and I'll see you.
If you enjoyed this show, then make sure you check out the other great shows on the Legion Podcast Network, like Cinema Psyops, Cinema Beef, Devour the Podcast, Duncan and Bo Come Correct, Exploding Heads Horror Movie Podcast, Friday the 13th, Get Slayed, The Helming Power Hour, Hello, This is the Doom Show, Hero Hero Go Show, Kill the Cast, Underwater Kaiju from Outer Space, Jerry Hates Action, Legion After Dark, Mental Health, Obsessive Cinema, Discourse, Pick 6 Movies, the podcast by The Cemetery, the podcast on Haunted Hill, the Psychosemantic Podcast, Rick Radio, House of Wax, Dude Looks Like the 80s, Rabbit and Red Radio, the Shadecast, Short Bus Cinema, 2 Drink Minimum Commentaries, the VD Clinic, Who Will Survive Horror Podcast, and Witch vs. the Doomsday Clock. With such a wide spread of shows, there is guaranteed to be a niche for you to fall in love with. Horror, politics, movies, books, sex, music, commentaries, health, video games, kaiju, action, news, comedy, and opinions that would most likely get you killed in some parts of the world. We are proud to bring you some of the best podcasting in the world. Check us out at www.legionpodcast.com, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, and any other dark corner of the internet where podcasts can be found.